Hey Steve, how you doing?
Okay, how about yourself?
Good. Hey, do you happen to know, I might be looking to start a trusted advisors group down in Charlotte, Kathy and I.
Yeah,
And I mean, do you have any interest in that? If not, what I'm looking for is I need a good CPA, a good attorney, a good HR person, a good wealth management person, a good marketing person, a good commercial real estate, a good commercial insurance person.
We can send you the list.
I can send you a list.
you need a lot of good.
Yeah, I do. I do need a lot of good, Steve. I mean, do you happen to know anybody in those spaces?
Yeah, I don't know if they'd be interested in joining the group, but yeah. So send me the list.
Okay, thank you. Because I get a lot of feedback, Steve, on is this a BEI? No, it's not a BNI group. Do you get business? But it really is a trusted advisors group. I mean,
Yeah.
So, and everybody has to be an A player. That's a big thing.
No, I get the concept for sure.
Hey, Paul.
Good morning. I came in muted and invisible.
Well, you've materialized, so good for you.
There we go. Volume was down too. So who's the young lady with Mr. Parent? What's your first name?
Good morning. It's Kathy Bradford. I'm Bob's wife and business partner.
Yeah, I figured that much. I knew he had somebody that makes him go.
That's it. Yeah.
Nice to be here.
Now
Steve,
we have brains. Paul, now we have brains on the team.
Oh, right. So have you, what are you doing with Growth Drive, Bob?
Really, that's really going to be more Kathy's expertise in that she is very familiar with EOS. She comes
Okay.
from the EOS type background for the Rolls company. I mean, she was the integrator.
Integrated, yeah.
She was the integrator, so she's very familiar with it. And so we're really kind of putting EOS, scaling up, and Growth Drive kind of under one roof.
Scanning up, did you say?
Scaling up.
Scaling up. Okay. Well, you and Joe should get along really well then. That's pretty much what he's doing too.
Oh, is it Joe?
Can't hear you, Joe. There we go.
Yeah. My earbuds aren't working this morning very well. Can you hear me okay?
Now we can.
Okay. Yeah, definitely see Andy Weevil sees this as a EOS Plus product. And, it's the accountability piece that's needed on the back end of our prescriptions as we prescribe this solution. A business operating system in EOS is better than most from a adoption rate standpoint, and it's very, very simple, relatively speaking, to install. It's got a lot of market adoption, so it's and then there's a lot of folks that have self-installed those DIY guides, and so it's a good complementary program for sure.
Now, how long have you been doing that, Joe?
3 years.
So you've incorporated EOS and scaling up kind of into one thing?
Scaling up, not so much.
I mean, it's EOS and Growth Drive.
That's the working model that we've been able to that we've been working on now for a while, and what I've seen is graduates with EOS, and they're basically the leadership team's ready to go independently. That's where I believe we can add value, is bringing new ideas to the CEO, then they can bring them into the room with their leadership team, and it's beyond just the team that is there in the room.
Joe, I know I don't want to take this whole conversation that way. Can we give you a call next, or email, whatever, and just kind of,
I'll send you.
kind of,
Yeah, I think I got a pending request to connect on LinkedIn. I'm just checking that, and then with Kathy, I'll do the same thing. So
Great, thank you.
thank you. I appreciate that.
George, I'm gonna send you a note. I think I'll also send it to Tina. I've been reading summaries of business books for years, and I offer it to my LX Council members as well. But unfortunately, the company I'd been using for a decade just kind of suddenly went belly up. I got a note saying, bye, we're leaving, and you got 30 days and stuff. So I've looked at some other places, and I found a subscription that I used once before. It's called SoundView. And I got a quote for just a group my size, but I was thinking of you as well and thinking, well, what if we had 100 subscriptions to this SoundView? And here, I'll look at it quickly here. So if there were 20 people who were doing it, it would be $135 a year. If there were 100 users, it'd be $75 a year. And they do 10 to 14 books a month. And for that price that I just mentioned, you get the book summaries that you can read, that you can listen to. And then they also have video clips out of the books, and they have video interviews with the authors that are on the order of 45 minutes. So my thought was that that could be another tool, you know, with that large a subscription model kind of thing, that you could have a relationship, and it could be offered through Growth-Drive as just another tool for everybody to be able to access.
Check it out. Send me the link.
I will
Lifelong
do that.
learning, man. I like it. Yeah, we use book summaries. Any of you, all of you who have used the, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. New microphone. Any of you who have used the Growth-Drive launch playbook, in that playbook, there are summaries of a series of books. And so I'm a big fan of the format. I think, you know, you obviously lose something, but you get the gist of it. And if you need to quickly communicate some concepts to a CEO or to a colleague, they're an incredibly useful tool. Yeah, Paul,
Well,
please send it over. I'll check it out.
Yeah, for Bob, for you, what I'm thinking, you know, with LX Council, instead, we don't have speakers the way Vistage does. So what I'll do is I'll kind of give some homework assignment before a meeting, and then we will discuss that and how it applies to their businesses in the meeting. And it's easy to get them to read a summary of 8 or 10 pages, rather than trying to read a whole 200-page book between
Right.
meetings.
I like that. That's a good idea, Paul. I like that idea. Thank you.
I'll share too. I'm even doing the Cliff Note version. If you just type in the title of a book and the author, 99% of the time into Bard, it'll summarize the book for you in about 2 pages.
Yeah.
Soon it's going to be one word, Paul.
So if you're looking for the quick and dirty, go to Bard.
Go to Bart. Yeah.
Now, George, I couldn't find your book.
Except they changed their
Sunday.
name. They changed their name last week. Now it's Gemini.
Gemini.
Yeah, Gemini. Yeah.
The Gemini launch. This is Apollo, but yeah.
Yeah, we just watched Oppenheimer last night.
We watched that too. That was
We're not
good.
sure why it got a whole bunch of awards. It was an extremely slow 2.5,
Yes.
3 hours.
I enjoyed it. The 2 most surprising movies, complete digression, the 2 most surprising movies we've watched, Sid is the, lifelong career in film. And the 2 most surprising movies we've watched recently, Saltburn, who saw that coming, but that's not 2. American Fiction, a really beautiful movie. And surprisingly, The Holdovers. which was a lovely film that, you know, when they put it up for an Academy Award, I'm like, really? I had assumed, shame on me. Anyway, you brought up a movie. There are two heartfelt.
George, I thought
You know
you were going
what?
to
We
say
need to turn our
Barbie.
brains off sometimes, though, right? We do. I mean, we all work hard, not work hard because we all love what we do. So, you know, saying we work hard is kind of a misnomer, but we all spend a lot of time focusing on this, the being business advisors, being better advisors, helping our clients, being better collaborators. And that's great. But every once in a while, you need to turn your brain off, right? You need to just, and I call it, Sid will be like, what are you reading? I'm like, trash. It's great. You know, I'm sorry, these are books that sell by the millions, so I shouldn't call them trash from a guy whose book has sold in the thousands. But yeah, movies are suspended reality. They're fantastic. Yeah, man.
And so I don't know the young lady at the bottom, but I like the title of her company, the Value Growth Quarterback. That's cool.
Silvana Nani.
Good morning. Thank you. Yes, I put together a growth framework for business owners, and I figured out that very often business owners at different levels of maturity of the business or the life cycle, they have very good advisors. I think very often, though, the business owner and the CEO is the glue and is the one that is, for better or worse, supposed to sort of synthesize everything they hear and sort of drop them in the plan or the right way, but they don't have the time. And wasn't it one of the data points that George shared with us in Florida where, CEOs and business owners spend only 32% of their time in strategic, like big picture activities, and most of it down in the weeds. And so I was just thinking, I think my role, or the best suited for what I do, is just making sure that what the CEO and the business owner is trying to accomplish or help them get to where they want to accomplish, and what all their trusted advisors, either internal or external to the company, bring in, they're all gelling in together, number one, into a more cohesive way, but also help them be accountable to that. Because there is one thing to have a plan, there is another thing to execute that plan against certain matrix. And so accountability comes a lot. I heard you talking about Vistage. I was at Vistage for a while, and I also trained to become a Vistage chair. So I think that one thing that, at least all depends on the Vistage chair, but accountability and executing on accountability in a regular fashion, it's a big deal to success. So I thought, quarterback, you help strategize, you help gel the team together, and you close the deal, not necessarily doing everything yourself, but making the team work better.
Yeah. It's funny. I was thinking, so by the way, guys, Silvana, this is your second week in the Coffee Klatsch, right, Silvana? Silvana's a lifelong learner. And those of you who met her down in Florida know that she's a smart cookie. And it's funny, I posted this morning, I reposted Mark Haas did a post for the Association for Enterprise Growth, which is an organization I helped give birth to years ago. And I was thinking about this exact topic, right? And this goes back to Joe's point about EOS, to the point you just made, Bob and Paul and Kathy. How do our job is to be the peer with the CEO, right? We want to expand their capacity, not, to borrow a term, but to borrow, we want to expand their capacity. How do we help a CEO be more effective as the chief executive officer? And we can definitely discuss this debate at Kicking Around, but I believe the fundamental role of the CEO is to maximize shareholder value quarterback, to maximize shareholder value within the context of the business's vision and mission. So maximize shareholder value within the context of the business's vision and mission. And we had a little, like a mini debate, Vern and I, down in Florida, because he said, okay, what's the CEO's role? And I said that, and he said, no, it's strategy. I'm like, well, we're saying the same thing, right? I just pulled up on Gemini, Harvard Business Review, CEOs, private business CEOs, 21% of their time specifically on strategy. That'd be 21% of their time creating and executing, right? Executing strategically. I don't mean about the tactical. They're obviously getting tactical. ClearPoint strategy, based on their research, 70% of leaders spend less than 1 day per month. I think that is in my experience, very accurate and probably optimistic. I think you kind of, if we expand the concept of strategy, and I'm on a tear, so I should stop and ask for comments, but I just would like to make one more point, if it's okay with you guys. We think about the execution leadership system, right? And Joe made the point that we're kind of EOS, we're the more sophisticated layer that can be brought in. When your client has tried EOS and is getting, EOS fatigue, when your client is saying, okay, well, we're still not, we've done this stuff and it's good stuff, right? But we're not breaking through. We're not taking the business where I want it to go. This is where we come in and we bring in outside ideas. We say, well, listen, you're focusing on profits, but if you focused on value, you're focusing on something bigger, et cetera. And when we look at the execution leadership system, and we think in terms of having okay, so how many working days are there in a year, right? There are, let's say 50 times 5, 250 days. If we do a quarterly meeting, that's 4 of our 250. If we add an annual meeting, we're at 5. We do monthlies. Those are, half day. We're not putting that many days out of our 250. We're certainly not at 50 days, which would be 20%, right? So I guess the point I'm making is strategy is critically important, and our typical client doesn't know yet to invest the time, and that it is really an investment. It is not a waste of time. Okay, diatribe. I apologize, but
Can I add something to what you just said and what Paul was starting? Okay, so very often I feel people say, I don't think maximizing the shareholder value, it's different or either or with the strategy. And personally, I think that, and I try very hard to make it very simplistic, to the bottom line is, what is your goal or what is your desired outcome? So if the goal or the desired outcome is to maximize shareholder value, then what do you do to get there? And strategy is the beginning and a lot of other things. So sometimes I say to people, it's not either or, it's just that if you have a framework, you have the end in mind and the desired, and then you have the tools, you have the strategy, and you have other things and tactical and execution and accountability and performance measures to get there. So to your point, not either or, it's both. And you just deploy them differently to achieve the goal.
Well, and when we start the growth conversation, and this is a differentiator, right? If we think about scaling up, if we think about traction, again, by good programs, but they don't start with the growth conversation. The growth conversation is to summarize, okay, you've told me you want to move from $2 million of profits to $5 million of profits. Cool. You need to ask why, right? We need to ask why. Why do you want to? Because moving from 2 million to 5 million, that's one answer, but it doesn't give us the information we need, right? It's not getting, in fact, Gino has a new book coming out that focuses on what I call the ultimate why. And so if we understand why you want to go to 5 million, why do you want to go to 5 million? And I'll just play this out, right? Well, I want to go to 5 million because at 5 million, I can sell my business for 30 million. And top end of the range of multiples for a manufacturing business, let's say, I can sell it for 30, pay off my debts, my investors, pay the taxes, and ended up with the wealth that I want for my family. And okay, that's great. But if you think about all the things that have to be right for what we've now figured out as their ultimate goal, and they may not spit that out. They don't know to share that. They may not have thought through why the 5 million, why is that important? And importantly, what happens if you don't get there? So, Silvana, that's one of the things that differentiates Growth Drive is that we want to start with a deep conversation about what are you really, 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 really trying to accomplish? And
George, I got a pretty quick little thing to do in real time with your CEO partners. So one of the things we talked about is their role responsibility, right? So there's a COO role and there's a CEO role. And if you think about it from a COO, it's more process driven.
Yeah.
And the CEO role is creative driven. So when you talk about a vice president of operations in what? From operations. So what happens here? What's this role? R&D, right? So you think about the times they're spending on R&D, looking out, building out the forecast, what the business can be, what the market's open to them. So the question is, where do you spend your time? And so you reflect in real time with the customer, with the client across the table, sales in what? Everybody's sales in what? Marketing, right?
Yeah.
So sales and marketing, how much time are they spending in sales? Remember, we're trying to create an independent business. They can, but if they stay on the marketing is always going to be good to be able to tell that forecasting story. But the process, accounting and finance, right?
Finance. Yeah.
So that's where we really get creative with how can we find opportunities for growth, and not only acquisition, but also financing the growth that it costs. Mm-hmm. So the last one is HR, right? So what are they doing from an HR perspective versus what would be the other one? Because of the C, culture, right? So in a really quick manner, you could do this exercise with your clients and say, where are you spending your time? You really should be focusing here. And okay, you're going to give a hall pass to them because they, maybe don't know any different. But oftentimes, if we could get them to think process here and hire for that process, and then get to keep them in the creative side, and oftentimes they're looking for a way to get, relieve them from having to do everything. And this kind of gives them a chance to, to focus on what they're really good. Why they started the business the first.
Joe, could you please hold that up for one more second?
Yeah, I like that, Joe. I
love
took
that schematic.
that.
So guys, do you know, if you look at this, let's look at the left column, the COO column, operations, sales, accounting, bookkeeping, and HR. Okay, those are dimension one. Those are dimension one OKRs. Innovation, marketing, sophisticated financial reporting, and culture are dimension two. Creating sustainable growth, predictable, sustainable growth. So what Joe has just spontaneously written out is dimension one. Let's make this business easier to run and create predictable cash flow. And dimension two, now the CEO is getting, now we're getting into creating value, creating sales, growing revenue. And then we can get into value capacity. But love that, Joe. You just, and yeah. And
here's a diversity chair. So, I do this. I mean, fun is you could write that upside down. And that's the beauty of simplicity. And let me do the creative stuff.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Yes. And yes. And becoming a peer to the CEO and helping the CEO understand that we are not consultants. We are not, although we have subject matter expertise, but that's not why we're at the table. We're at the table to expand your impact on the business and to help you evolve your role, delegate your accountabilities, move yourself up the accountability stack, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's good stuff.
I use, oftentimes it kind of resonates with people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Under the wing, kind of, a little more closeness.
Yeah. Bob and Kathy, does that resonate?
Yes.
Awesome. Cool. Paul, I saw you shaking your head up and down and getting
Oh,
excited.
I quickly took a screenshot of that. I like that. It's a good topic for a blog kind of thing.
And I was about to say, and now we've moved past it enough that I can say this because I can cut it out of the snip. I will snip that out and put it out, put it up in the community as a separate little vignette. Yeah, very cool. We've got Steve Duke had to bail. Okay. Cool. What else is on people's minds? No politics, no religion.
Good. So George, so we're looking at a wealth management, so he grosses about 1.5 and he nets about 5.
Okay.
And so, on the growth drive, it's the multiple is 4. And so, so my question is, I realize it's the kind of the big NAICS number that we're looking at, we're not, 52. So we're not drilling down, but so my thought is, okay, and this guy's pretty darn sophisticated. And so my question is, so he went ahead and took the Dimension 1, and we're going to be meeting with him. His wife's taking it also because she's a partner. And so, how do we come back and he says, well, hey, I've been getting, because these wealth advisors have been getting offers.
Yeah.
And so he goes, well, I've been getting offers for, 6 or, or whatever. So, and I realize we can change that number, but, how would you address that?
Okay, so that is such a meaty topic. Maybe this will be another vignette. All right, guys. And I just helped one of you with this exact topic. I have a CEO who came in and has gotten a couple of letters of intent. Letter of intent is an expression from the market that they might be interested in buying your business. Now, the letters of intent, it's hard to get your client to understand because they're like, well, I'm getting an offer. I got an offer for 10 million. It's like, well, that is not an offer. This is a letter of intent. And depending on who is giving it to you. Now, if one of your strategic, a strategic in your market comes and gives you a letter of intent, that is very different than if you just get it in your email or your phone rings because there are sponsors out there who have no money. They don't represent a bank or an investor. They are out looking for deals that they will then shop, right? So they might put an LOI out for them. That's bait in the water, and it's bona fide, right? It's not complete BS, but it will not, in all likelihood, survive due diligence. So you've set an expectation in the client. It's really poisoning the well because you've set an expectation with a client that their business is worth 10 million. Listen, I got two offers at 10 million. Like, no, you didn't. You got bait in the water. You got a fishing expedition from someone who literally is a professional who is only going to make money if they help you sell your business. But it's like the real estate agent putting the flyer in your mailbox. That's exactly what this is. So when we come full circle, and someone says, well, I've had an offer at X, we need to step back and say, great, let's take a grown-up look at that. I wouldn't use the word grown-up. Let's put a hard eye on this. And what do we think? How do we think that this price that you've been offered survive due diligence? Now, the way Clarity works is it does not account for strategic value. You can't account for strategic value. So your wealth advisor firm has profits of about a little over 30%. Cool. First of all of us here know that we'd have to get into their bookkeeping. Like, they're keeping their books in line with industry norms? In this type of firm, I would expect yes, because there's so much regulation. But then a quick on Gemini, which is my new crush, we have average EBIT for wealth management firms, Mercer Capital, right? This is from Mercer Capital. So a source, we'd have to dig in. Let's go look at the original, always go look at the original source, always, in news and online, 18.5. So we're like, wow, well, you're generating a lot more profit than the average. That is going to be accretive to value if it stands up to scrutiny. So this is the kind of conversation we want to have with our client. Like, listen, great, congratulations. You got an offer for 10 million. Now let's figure out, I'm not here to rain on your parade. I'm just here to make sure that you don't invest a lot of time emotionally and physically, right? That emotional time is very valuable in pursuing something that may actually be a fishing expedition. And not a fishing expedition to learn your secrets. It's a fishing expedition to try to get you to sign up. And then this independent sponsor is going to go and shop you. Well, you know.
Sure.
What do we have here? Does that all make
Sure.
sense, guys? Did I answer your
George,
Go ahead, Paul.
I'm confused by only one thing, which is he's got an email. That's not a letter of intent.
No, well,
A letter of intent is much more formal and is a level of commitment. And I think he's just got a teaser of
Get a
some
teaser.
sort.
And look in the letter of intent at terms, because as a friend of mine said a while ago, I can get you in, not about me. He said about the market generally. Listen, I can get you any price you want. You just won't like the terms, right? And so as that letter of intent, let's look at the terms. And I spent a decade in law school for 3 years, and I'll tell you, the terms are the meat of the matter. But Paul, your point is really well made.
George, what happens if it really has legs, though?
Well, okay,
You should be happy.
should be.
Well, I know, but I mean, but so what I'm saying is, so we've done that dimension 1, and let's come back at 4. But let's say, hey, the real legs are 6.
Okay,
That's really what I'm saying is.
great. Well, so I would make this point, and you've heard me make it before, Bob. Let's stipulate that it's 6. I'm going to put 6 right into the sofa right here. Let's say that that's your value. And now let's look at your capacity to substantiate that, right? We need to look at your strategic capacity, because due diligence is going to happen, and you need to successfully complete due diligence in a way that keeps you at 6. And if you cannot successfully complete due diligence in a way that keeps you at a 6 times multiple, then this number is going to be dialed back. Of course it's going to be dialed back. It's like me coming to look at your car and you say like new, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's got 120,000 miles on it. It's rusting. And there's blue smoke coming out the tailpipe. Love you. Looked good in pictures, but I can't give you your asking. And that's the way due diligence works, right? And which is 19 out of 20 companies cannot sell the way they're run today with their current strategic capacity. That's
a good thing.
So I hope did that answer your question, Bob?
Yes, thank you. I need to run.
Okay.
But Kathy's gonna stay, but Kathy's staying.
That's a good thing.
I agree,
George,
George.
if this wealth planner is looking to get out really fast, looking at it from the downside risk is okay. If the wealth planner is looking 3 to 5 years out, then you have, Kathy, the option of trying to convince them how to get to an 8 multiple or a 10x multiple.
Right.
Or 6.
Which I think is where he really is. It's more of a long-term play. Unfortunately, in his mind, he's so exhausted. At this point, he just wants out. So It's kind of like handling the emotional side of it is like, okay, you want me to do what? And it's like, okay, but I could do this and maybe get this.
When does he want to get out, Kathy?
We've known him personally for a very long time. I can never see him retire.
Okay.
So while he says he wants out, I think it's just exhaustion and his capacity to do anything outside of the office and the business is non-existent.
So
like
his work-life balance is completely
like he told me recently his wife takes a huge annual trip every year and he has never been able to go. She's going to Africa next month. He can't go. So he said, if I could just get back enough time to do, this kind of stuff, I think he would, see a light at the end of the tunnel. But again, I don't think he wants to exit.
Well,
I think he's just so fed up and exhausted. He's like, I got to do something different.
I would recommend that especially since you have a close relationship, you might consider doing level 2 effective senior leadership and people productive and loyal, and just walk through the two
Yeah.
of those. And I can provide you the guidance, right? The execute guidance on those. So you can say, here are the types of things, because here's my, without knowing anything else, is anyone else, guys, show of hands if you agree that this business sounds as though it can't be run without the guy. And if it
And
can't be
cannot.
run without the guy, then
Yeah.
the business has no transferable value, or has
Exactly.
depressed transferable value. Doesn't mean he hasn't created whatever the number is, 10 million,
Yeah.
but he won't be able to monetize it. The terms, if someone buys him, great. He might get the price he wants, great. But some of it I would anticipate, and these are just guess, right? But I would anticipate, if I was looking at this deal, I'd say, yeah, and you, Bob, are sticking around for the next 2 years because we're going to suck your brain dry. We need to know how to replicate your performance. And so we're going to pay you a little bit. We're going to give you 2 million today. Keep you happy. But that, the 8 of it, or whatever the percentage is, right? A significant percentage of the buy is going to be based on these other things happening. And one of those things is you being able to go to Africa with your wife, because that is an important part of life that you should be able to enjoy. You've created an incredible machine here. You should be able to walk away for a month, right? And so there's anyone else. I mean, if you see it differently, please
Well,
jump in.
Kathy, I'm guessing that guy is an individual only wealth planner. He has no support staff and no other wealth planners.
He does have limited. Unfortunately, he's a very, I would call it like a boutique. He's not a pie chart investor. So he's got his own kind of models. And so then he's like, and I got to train everybody to do it my way.
Okay.
And it's like, it is a small firm, but he does have a little bit of help, which is, thank heavens. Otherwise, I think the poor man would implode.
So he's like his own private equity fund manager, and he's doing all the research himself in order to put people into things rather than using mutual funds and other things that others would use. Okay.
Yeah.
He's the COO, as Joe was saying.
He's both.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Living in full circle. Nicely done.
Well, now that you added a little bit more detail, I just think that his multiplier probably it's even lower, or like his ability to sell is even lower.
Yes.
If one thing that I love what George has actually drilled into our brains is you cannot grow unless you make it easy to run. And in order to make it easy to run, one of the drivers or the levers is that the business can run without you. So that's number one. And so if you are a buyer and you're looking at that, that is a really huge indicator. On top of that, it seems to me, because I spent a lot of time on the secret sauce business on the technology side, he has a secret sauce that is highly dependent on the way that his brain works and the way he sees the world and how he makes decisions. So even if he comes and trains somebody, it'll be highly difficult for him to get a clone of himself that will feel comfortable enough to continue the same path and make the same amount of money and get the same results to make it worthwhile to buy it. So I think he is even in more sensitive position than just he cannot be out of the business for the business to run. That's
right. There's definitely some emotional ties to it. The secret sauce, I love that. But the godsend is his son is joining. So his wife's part of the business already, and she has a very strong investment background as well. And his son has just come on board. So I think he may be willing to open the envelope to the secret sauce and get some folks trained up.
Good.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I hear a lot of people in the wealth, not management development business, because it seems to me that his secret sauce is his special algorithms and everything. And they all say, well, I cannot train you to do this because this is a special algorithm. I'm like, well, if you cannot train somebody, oh, then,
Yeah.
it dies with you, basically.
Yeah, there's no transferable value if you leave.
Well, and if it make it fun to run, right? If we bring the
Yeah, yeah.
pleasure back in, and we see this with first dimension engagements, right? We see it's like, well, wait a second. I know I said I wanted to sell this, but I'm actually I'm having fun again. I played golf on Saturday. I went to Africa with my spouse, whatever. And it can change. You'll hear me say, subject to change without notice, or they'll disappear from one, like, I gotta sell it now, I'm tired, I'm done, to, hey, whoa. Maybe I'm gonna stick around. And either way, that's up to them. It's their business, it's their life. Yeah, fascinating.
Good stuff. Thank y'all for your feedback and input. Super helpful.
One,
Sure.
Kathy, is can this be franchisable? Walk through all the steps. What if you were to franchise this? What are all the steps to try to make that happen? And that is a really good asset litmus test, is to see what he's got and really where his mind is. Because I think more importantly is, do they have the gumption? Do they have the awareness to say, I need to scale myself out of this business? And that's where the EOS, the model with the chart is, with the, when you're talking about your vision, your people, data, IDS, and process. The process piece here would be, does he have the process? Is it unique enough to scale in franchise? If not, then perhaps it's a lifestyle business. And I think that's where you're kind of the critical edge between franchisable and lifestyle business. And and then maybe you can find someone to run the business while he's away in Africa for a month and pay him an absorbent amount of money just to have that peace of mind. It's going to be taken care of. That's the nuances of the lifestyle business. And if congratulations. So
I have a question. I'm wondering, you said that if it's not franchisable, then it's a lifestyle business, and that's right. But you don't have to be franchisable and still be a growth business. I think the lifestyle one has more to do with the goals and the intent of the business owner. Like, I was the chief operating officer of a lifestyle business. That business was not franchisable. However, if they could have easily been a growth business where they had a growth mindset and they were looking at what they were doing and how they were doing it in a way where they went from lifestyle to growth. So I just was curious about that. Maybe we can talk more and see what you guys think.
Well, Silvana, let's bring it full circle to something you said about 3 minutes ago. So if we make this business, how do we improve his challenge, Kathy, right, is work-life balance. The biggest drain on the transferable value of his business is probably the same work-life balance. So if we think about making this business easier to run, right, 21% is CEO, so he's representative of the market. We think about making this business easier to run. We are creating a launch pad that we could use to fund growth. But to Silvana's point, what we've done is we've actually improved his work-life balance, and data tells us his revenues are actually going to pop. So you have a happier client who's making more money, and you haven't even mashed the pedal down yet. So Silvana, you make an interesting point. I don't know if I'd use a franchisable business. I think this guy is light years away from. He may have a franchisable idea, but Joe, to your point, and you circled operationally,
process,
not quite there yet. But our work is all about creating options for our client, right? We create options.
The process part of it is, and Kathy knows what, this is EOS talk here or whatever, but the process thing is what he's got to focus on, so he can delegate that whatever it is that he feels like he has to do on a day-to-day basis versus a month in, month out.
Strong SOPs. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Act 1, Scene 1. Strong SOPs is what
franchisable. Maybe I'm taking it too far, but the whole idea is that you have to have something followed by all, right?
Something followed by all. You get it.
I do have one more thing to add, and this is the coach in me and my change management and behavior, sort of like neuroscience. We talk about life, work-life balance, and that's a huge part. But the very first part of it, and in personal life and the business life, what I see, and that's why I got into coaching, is if people don't know what to do themselves, if they don't have a life outside of work, it's not a work-life balance type of problem. It's, I have no idea what I stand out of this. I have no hobbies, no friends, no time to go there, because the work-life balance problem is when you want to play tennis, you want to go sailing, but you just don't have your work in order, and you are too controlling, or like you haven't built the delegation muscle to get there, to let go. But the other thing I was going to say is, and this is where a really, honest to God conversation about getting to the bottom of who he is as a human being and what matters to him is, if he doesn't know what to do with himself, it's not work-life balance. It's him trying to figure out who he is outside of work, and if work is his identity, and then that's a different problem.
Right. Sure. I think he's good. He's got grandkids he wants to spend time with. He wants to travel with his wife, Jennifer.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, he's got all the things. He just doesn't have any capacity to do any of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm late to the game here, but
Good morning.
good morning. So yeah, that feeds into in the exit planning world, we talk about the three legs of the stool, right? And how you have to have all these three legs in equally covered, right? So personal purpose is one of the things, right? So if you're an owner, you have to have a vision of what your post-business life is going to look like. If you don't have that vision or plan, you probably won't walk away. You may not leave. Or if you do leave, Price Waterhouse has found that 75% of owners are unhappy within a year of selling their businesses.
Yeah.
Number one reason for that is they have no plan for what they're going to do afterwards. They're unhappy, even though they got the money they wanted. So we preach, you got to have that vision for your next act. You also need to have an idea or a pretty solid financial plan in place, so you know how much that next act is going to cost you. And then thirdly, and this is what we do with Growth-Drive, is how do I increase the transferability or the transferable value of my business to create the required resources I need in order to achieve that personal purpose when I walk away. So we preach you got to look at all three, and you have to give all three equal weight. And if you don't tend to all three of them, your chances of having a successful exit are probably going to be diminished.
Yeah, it's a great point, Mike. Really good.
That's
point.
not my point. That's exit planning. Chris Snyder, not
The EPI guys.
yeah, the EPI guys.
Interesting. Hey guys, it is 23 past the hour. I can't believe this has been a rolling conversation. I have to drop off like right before 10:30. I was hoping, and you guys feel free to keep the conversation going. I'd love to grab would you be okay sharing if we go around the table and everybody shares a key takeaway from today's conversation? Good to do that? Okay, great. Kathy, you nodded your head first, so you're my first victim. Kathy, do you have a key takeaway from today's conversation?
Well, I love Joe's chart, so I'm definitely going to leverage that in conversations going forward. I think it just really simplifies the whole concept of, focusing here as a strategic arm, get out of the operations, get out of the sales, get out of the HR, and let's put you here. And we can do that by leveraging the Growth-Drive tool and all the different concepts there. So I think that's fantastic. Thank you, Joe.
Cool, Kathy. Thanks. Hey, Joe, how about you go next?
Sure, I learn something new every day. That's the beauty of this process, and I using that flip charts. I was a speaker about 6 months ago. I heard, saw her doing this. And I thought, if you can't be belly to belly, this is the closest thing I can do. So those simple things you can write out in big, bold, so people can see it. If you could force yourself to do that more often, you can get through the communication process. And hey, details can wait, but just got to get the concept through. Thank you.
That's awesome, man. Thanks, Joe. I'm going left to right here. Silvana, you're next.
Okay, well, definitely Joe's chart is always eye-opening and very right to the point. But what I would add to that is there were a couple of examples that we talked about how to use clarity and growth drive to, make the points. And I thought that they were very good. And the more we talk about it, or the more we talk about, in real life, how we utilize the results of the clarity 1 or 2 to make a point, it's very helpful because it gives breadth to our experiences.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Silvana. Agreed. Paul?
So Joe's chart is obviously a clip that I took, but then also I was thinking, since Kathy, Bob's also part of LX Council, the power of the question. Think back how we questioned you and we kept getting a little bit more information, and it enhanced what we could say about the possibilities.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, Tina is my guest. We're going to be recording her podcast session today, and the power of the question I'm going to add to because you're absolutely right. Questions, guys. Mike, I know you were late to the party.
Well, my takeaway is not to be late to this party again. I jumped in at the very end, so I missed all the good stuff. So my takeaway is, but I had a call that I had to jump on. It was a call with PNC Bank, and at some point, George, I want to circle back to you because they're trying to figure out how I fit into their whole exit planning, program, because they made a big commitment to it.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to convince them that I'm not competing with them, that I'm kind of complimentary.
You're
But
very
they have to figure out how I fit. So maybe I can circle back to you and you can
Absolutely. Let's book some time together. I'll send you
All right.
I'll send you a link, or if you have the link, let's definitely book
Okay.
time to chat about that.
Thank you. All right, thank you. I know you got to run. But thanks.
Guys, I'm gonna drop off. I'm gonna make Kathy. You sticking around? I'm gonna make Kathy the host.
No, I gotta run too, sorry.
Okay. What are we all calling it?
Yeah, calling it.
We're calling it. All right. Cool, guys. A great conversation, and I'll be posting it. So thank you. Everybody have a great week.
Nice.
All right. Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, Savannah, Joe, Paul. We'll see you soon. Bye.